Do you have the gift of gab and like talking about interesting topics? Are you often called opinionated by your friends and family? Then come to Anchor where you can be all of the above and get paid for it. Along with being one of the easiest systems to create contact with, Anchor supplies everything you need and can be used from your smartphone or computer. They even distribute your content for you so that you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Just download the Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Hello, Internet family, all Anjanette speakers. This is Anjanette Potter, also known as Adam's Rib, and this is day 4 of 29 Days of Black Feminism. As I said before, this is my contribution to Black History Month. I am honoring those women who have made Black women who have made tremendous strides to make tremendous contributions, to the world of feminism and fighting for the rights of Black women, especially, to women, but especially Black women. Giving the focusing on intersectionality, focusing also on the extra added oppression of being Black as well as female. Because many times you hear about feminism, but you don't hear about feminism from the standpoint of minorities, and especially Black women. So, Bell Hooks is her pen name. She was actually born Gloria Jean Watkins, September 25th, 1952. She is an American author, professor, feminist, and social activist. She borrowed her pen name from her maternal great-grandmother, Belle Blair Hooks. So she received her Bachelor of Arts at Stanford University, her Master of Arts at University of Wisconsin-Madison. She has a PhD from the University of California in Santa Cruz. So most of her writing comes from the standpoint of what they call oppositional gaze. So oppositional gaze is a type of looking relation that involves the political rebellion and resistance against the repression of a Black person's right to look. So, when you probably are wondering, look at what? Okay, so one example to explain this: Black slave owners punished Blacks for simply looking at them. Now, if you're familiar with a phenomena that I call Emmett Till syndrome, and Emmett Till syndrome is when you have a Black man that is, on trial or being accused of anything involving any type of sexual impropriety toward a woman, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a white woman. All they have to do is be accused, and you will have a whole lot of people, well, they're out to get him, this, that, and the other, and he could be guilty, and there will be people still sticking up for him. Now, the reason why I named it that way is because it's a throwback to the days where Black men actually, at one point, were likely to be falsely accused of rape. If you know the story of Emmett Till was not caught in any type of sexual impropriety at all when he was murdered. He was murdered simply because he spoke to a white woman and she claimed he flirted with her or was too friendly with her. You probably have heard news here recently where she admitted that she lied about how friendly he was with her or what have you. And so she caused an innocent young man to be murdered, because that's what happened to him. He was murdered. Now, he broke a social convention that was really founded. It was alive during Jim Crow. It was alive during the time that he was alive, obviously, because he got murdered over it. But it's something that has its roots on the plantation, because a Black person looking too hard or looking a white person in the eyes was forbidden. Anything that would cause a black person, especially during the time of slavery, because we weren't considered to be equal. And so anything that looked like you were trying to be equal with a white person could get you lynched, could get you murdered, could cause you to suffer a great deal of hardship and pain, because you have to recognize that when you're talking about during the time of slavery, we are not seen as anything other than property. So we're not supposed to be looking them in the eye. That could get you called uppity. That could get you called whatever. So think post-slavery and Jim Crow and lynchings and night rides that were meant to keep us under control and meant to keep us in our place. So once again, you break that social code, because they're still thinking of us as property and not equal to them. And so when you have that attitude that a black person is not equal to you, then looking them in the face can be seen as being defiant. So the oppositional gaze enters as a way for black people to combat white supremacy. Also, as a result of how black people are represented in white cinema, usually racist. So black cinema arose, but Ms. Hooks also noted that black male filmmakers began to portray black women in their films as object of male gaze. So male gaze has to do with the depiction of women and girls as sexual objects for the pleasure of heterosexual viewers. This inherently perpetuates white supremacy, as the black female body was represented only to enhance and maintain white womanhood. So, and I have white womanhood in quotes, because white womanhood is a construct that is left over from white supremacy. If you ever see the movie Birth of a Nation, and we're not talking about the more recent Birth of a Nation, but the old black and white film that depicts, that the start of the Klan was because of the rape of a white woman by a black man. So the whole construct of white womanhood, well, we're protecting white womanhood. So that's why, we're doing all this. We got to keep them in their place. So to enhance and maintain white womanhood as an object of the phallocentric gaze. Now, phallocentric gaze is an ideology that the phallus, or the male sex organ, is the central element in the organization of the social world. So penises mean power. You've heard of the Freudian phrase penis envy, because not that women are penis hungry or wish they had penises, but penises in a patriarchal society, a person possessing a penis is seen as a person who is going to be powerful if the person is a baby, but if they're an adult male, then it represents power. It can also represent oppression if they abuse that power. As a child, Ms. Hooks explored both the negation of black female representation in cinema and TV, and black women's rejection of these images when she first encountered the character of Sapphire from Amos and Andy. Now, these are some of the things that Ms. Hooks quoted. Not the body of desire, nothing to see, not us, and how could we be there when our image visually constructed was so ugly? So I don't think that she meant that Sapphire in and of herself, because Sapphire was a character in the show Amos and Andy. And Amos and Andy, it has a very racist beginning to it. If you do your research, and I suggest that you do, it's always during this month alone, you should research as much and learn as much about your history as possible, about our history as possible, because I'm African American recording this. So, Amos and Andy were based on characters that were on a radio show that were actually originally white men imitating black people, period. So the voices on the radio were actually white people, and they were doing these characters. Now, this show did not exist for the entertainment of black folks. It was actually for the entertainment of white people, and very degrading to black people. Once Amos and Andy made it on television, then they were replaced by black actors and actresses. Now, if you want to know the true definition of caricature, if you've ever been to a carnival and watched people draw those funny pictures of other people, and usually with a caricature, they will distort certain features on you. So it's almost like looking at yourself in a funhouse mirror. I always call it the funhouse mirror. It's a mirror, it's an image of you, but it's a very distorted image of you, and it's not an actual you. So caricatures of black people, racist caricatures of black people, yeah, they're black. These are black actors and actresses, but let's say their speech is very slurry. Very exaggerated mannerisms of what they think black people are and act like, but not really accurate depictions of us. And it'll probably be, I would say, several decades or even centuries before, and we're still fighting to preserve our image now as black people, and it's 2020. So, the oppositional gaze is an actual rejection of a writer named Laura Mulvey's paper Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema from 1975. So Miss Mulvey is a British filmmaker and a feminist theorist, feminist and film theorist, excuse me. So the film theorist is a theoretical, Lord have mercy, film criticism derived from feminist politics and feminist theory. She was influenced by second wave feminism, or feminism in the 70s, and I may do a little analysis of the different types of feminism and explain what second wave is. So Visual Pleasure and Narrative is an analysis based on Lacan's mirror stage. So Lacan is a French psychoanalyst, and mirror stage within film is what she's talking about. But this is based on his theory about infants being able to recognize themselves in the mirror. And I can talk about that because my little 1-year-old grandson, when I hold a mirror up to him, I don't know if he recognizes that it's him. I think he recognizes that it's another baby. Not quite sure that he knows that the baby in the mirror is him. You get where I'm coming from? He knows it's a baby. He just don't know that the baby is him. So whether or not he recognizes himself or sees himself, so why would mirror stage, why would this psychoanalytic view be important in film? Well, Mulvey's text concludes that subjectivity is the birth of the long affair or despair between image and self-image, which has found such intensity of expression in film, such joyous recognition in cinema audiences. So Miss Hooks opposed that. Because let's face it, if everybody on the screen is white, well, yeah, you do see yourself. You see yourself. You may not see yourself accurately, because I've heard, because keep in mind that cinema for a very long time was produced and written by who? Males, and white males. So there's one. So white feminists, as we say, or white women, have also fought to be accurately displayed. So I don't know. And let's face it, people have complained for a long time about how romance movies and rom-coms and different other things affect relationships, because they feel like they place unrealistic standards on relationships and give women unrealistic notions of what a relationship should be like. Don't know how accurate that is. I think there's just a whole lot of guys that just are not very romantic or sensitive to women, and that could be the issue there as well. And it could also be unrealistic. It depends on who you're talking to. It depends on the scenario that you're looking at is unrealistic. So Miss Hooks states that Black women often remain in search of a mirror stage. In other words, we don't feel like we're accurately depicted. We don't see nothing on that screen that looks like us, because they have yet to see metaphorically to see that mirror image. So our mirror stage, we're not looking, we look, and I think only in recent years in recent decades have we started to see images that even reflect a little bit of what we look like, or what we think are true representatives of ourselves. So because like I said before, Bell is kind of deep. So I wasn't able to, get all of, but I will say this, there's a couple more concepts that she talks about. One is, called feminine gaze. And I highly recommend that you look that up and, look at what that means. And the other one is Olympia's Maid. Now, Olympia's Maid is a portrait of a nude white woman. She's laying on a bed, and a maid, the woman is white, the maid is Black, and she's bringing her flowers from a suitor. Now the painting was made in 1865, and the reason why they talk about Olympia's Maid is because, and I've always said this in the past, it seems like when Black women are stereotyped, we either fall into one or two categories. We're either the desexualized mammy, who is always looking out for everybody else but ain't got no life of her own, no man of her own. You don't even see her going out on too many dates because she's so busy looking out for everybody else. That just one of those things. If you look at, television and see our depictions, we got better and better. Okay, she's usually. One of the things I will tell you, and this is one show I think about when I think about that desexualization. One of the things I used to love about Give Me a Break with Nell Carter is that she, because typically, Mammy is overweight, which is basically another, and I'm not a big fan of the Mammy archetype, because number one, is usually a way of making fun of dark-complected Black women. It's also another way of making fun of heavy-set dark-complected Black women. It also desexualizes us, and dark-complected Black women do date. Dark-complected, heavy-set Black women date. And so one of the things that I was really fond of on Give Me a Break, even though she was a maid, and if you are a fan of the show, then she wasn't just a maid, she was also a friend of the girl's mother. So it was kind of a thing of her moving in to help raise her friends' children. So she wasn't just a maid. But they let men, and I don't know how much of this was Nell, it probably was. Nell dated. Nell had boyfriends. Nell had men in her life and different other stuff like that. So she didn't allow herself to be desexualized. One of the things that they said about the late Esther Roll is that when she was on Maude, she insisted on having a husband. And and that didn't go away when they took her character on to Good Times, because she started off on Maude. But one of the things she insisted on was that they give her character a man, to have, to reflect that this was a woman that wasn't just this benevolent, nice little black woman who is so crazy about taking care of white households that she don't have no life of her own. Now, that's one extreme. The other extreme is the over hypersexualized Jezebel, the woman who just can't get enough dick. She can't get enough sex, and it's impossible to rape her because you can't rape the willing. They over-sexualize her to the point where you wind up having to put up with all kinds of wrong attention, especially from white men, because of that assumption that you always wet and you always ready for it. A third one, I said the two. I'm going to add a third one, and that's the one Sapphire. Now, Sapphire is the root of the angry black woman. The black woman that she isn't walking around with a smile pasted on her face all the time. She's assumed to be angry. If you dare stick up for yourself in any situation, you're seen as hostile or aggressive. And so while I was doing my research for this post, I looked at a few episodes of Amos and Andy, because everything is available on YouTube, so you're able to see it. And the funny thing is, when I looked, first of all, the actress playing Sapphire is not a bad looking black woman at all. In fact, she's very nice looking. However, I could see where the whole Sapphire thing kicked in, because she was sticking up for herself with her husband. There was a bit of a Bickerson type dynamic, almost honeymooners type dynamic between her and her husband, Kingfish. And like I said before, she was probably a little mouthy for that time period, because we're talking about a time where white women weren't even considered to be, having a voice. So, anybody of color really was not, seen as equal. So any type of sticking up for yourself is going to be seen as you being mouthy or aggressive or, angry. And I can remember working at this one place, and, I was working in emails, and this guy called me, a piece of shit. And so I was like, and I'm one of those people, I might take it on the chin one time. And really, to me, that's one time too many. We really need to stop allowing people to talk to. In customer service, there's nothing wrong with letting someone know, I really need you to not talk to me like that. You don't have to accept verbal abuse. And so the next time this woman started being okay, I'm trying to, my phone rang. I'm so sorry. So to finish this out, finish out the rest of my story, the next person was short with me, and so I let him know, I don't want you, you can't talk to me like that. And so they went ahead, and I got accused of being short with a customer. Now, there were some other dynamics there, but it was more or less a case of, darned if you do, darned if you don't. In other words, we just gonna make it as hard for you to do your job as possible. So if you say anything, we're gonna sit over here and act like everything that happens is your fault. So anyway, I'm gonna be posting this. Like I said before, I would suggest that you look up Olympia's Maid. I may look it up, and who knows, this may wind up being a topic for this month. So I'm gonna be posting this on, at the usual places. I haven't gotten around to posting the other posts on the AnjanetteSpeak blog yet. They are available on my podcast and on my YouTube channel. I will be posting all of these this week to get caught up in everything. I also have some more. I also have on February 8th the second half of my review for Jackie Rod's book. Georgia Stories on My Mind will be posted along with the guest post and our interview questions. I also am going to be participating in the next blog book tour, which is Valerie Nefora's I Asked the Wind, which is also a collection of poems. So that one will be on the 29th, I believe. If I got it wrong, I will post the rest of it on. I will be posting all week long. So if you're following any of those blogs, you will see the updates, and the dates for that blog tour will be on the Bookworm blog for this week. Anyway, you guys be blessed, and I will be doing some more. Basically, I'm going to try as much as I can to post on time and to post daily. So you will be seeing a blog. You will be seeing a blog from me every day, or a podcast, or a video from YouTube, whichever one you decide you want to watch or listen to. You will see every day this month. You guys be blessed, and I love you. Hello, you have reached the message line for Adam's Rib Media Ministry. If you would like to give me a shout out, recommend some topics for discussion, or give an opinion about some topics that I've already discussed, either here on my podcast or on my blogs, leave me a message and I will get right back to you. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.